What's going on, guys? Your boy Amazing. We're back with another video, and in today's video, guys, me doing the LR tier list again. Now that we have the information with the LR Lilia, I actually did want to do an updated who should you LR first priority list, guys, to let you know what are the best LRs in Grand Cross and which ones are not really the greatest. So let's hop in and let's discuss. Before we actually hop into the video, make sure to subscribe to your boy Amazing. We are on the road to the 50,000 subscribers. If you guys haven't hit that sub button already, man, what are you guys doing? Hit that sub button, like the video, subscribe, man. And yeah, guys, with that out of the way, let's hop in and let's actually do the tier list. Now, this was last month's tier list, or last LR's tier list, pretty much. And I had LR Galleon here. Now, the thing is with this tier list, guys, and what I, initially had wrong was I put Galleon above Margaret and Lostvayne, and honestly, he is the worst LR, at least from back then. And I made that mistake, and I also clarified in the pinned comment of that video, and I let people know. But yeah, no, today's video we're going to be doing the entire thing again, but we do also have the LR Lilia now as well. And what we're going to do as well, guys, is go over every character's kit, and then we're going to rank them accordingly, based on how good they actually are overall in the game. I'm covering all content in the game here, guys, for who you should prioritize. So this covers both PvP and also PvE viability. Alright, guys, now starting with the bottom of the list here, we're actually going to go with LR Galleon here, man. And the main reason why we're going to be talking about LR Galleon specifically and why he is the weakest LR in the game is mainly because the character does not have a holy relic yet, guys. The thing is with Galleon is that he honestly isn't really doing too much in the game. The only place you're really going to get use out of this character is maybe Chaos Battle. Like that's like a stretch as well, guys. I don't even think Chaos Battle you're really using this character like that. But you're not using him in PvE, and you're not really using him in PvP. In terms of what Galleon's able to do, guys, let's actually go over his passive here. So the hero's defense-related stats increase by 20% for 3 turns at the start of the battle, and the hero's attack-related stats increase by 4% for 4 turns, up to 5 times whenever a demon ally uses a skill. And demon allies damage dealt increases by 50% if there is a petrified enemy. And then in addition, Galleon coerces an enemy once at the start of the battle, and the affected target cannot debuff or cannot activate debuffs when using skills, and may only attack Galleon as well. And then Galleon's damage reduction from the target is going to be decreased by 40%. So as I mentioned, guys, like Galleon isn't really doing too much because of his passive here. Demon allies obviously get a benefit, but other than that, I mean, the character is not really that good, man. I'll be honest, he's definitely in need of a holy relic. I don't know why they didn't release him with a holy relic. It actually is a little bit weird as well, because he was the only LR on release that, if didn't have a holy relic already, never got one. So that was a little bit weird with Galleon, man. But yeah, in terms of his actual skills though, guys, he has amplified gauge reduction on his first skill, and then for his second skill here, he has bleed spike AoE. So you guys can see exactly what the effects do. And then on his ultimate here, he's going to have a 50% basic stat increase and then sever single target. So yeah, I mean, his skills are solid, but I don't think it really is enough considering his passive is just not good, guys. So Galleon is going to be, in my opinion, the number 8 character on the list here. And let's move on, guys, and talk about the number 7. Alright, guys, so moving on to the next character on the LR priority list. For the number 7 slot, I'm actually going to rank Lostvayne Meliodas. Now, the reason why I'm actually going to rank Lostvayne here, guys, is because this character is, he's still solid. I think Lostvayne is still a really good character in the game. The main reason why this character lost viability in terms of content in the game is because of this character right here, guys, DK Meliodas. So obviously Lostvayne is still a strong character, and that's the thing with all these LRs. They're all really good except Galleon. They're all really good, but the problem is with them is that if a new character comes out that's the same name character, they're most likely power creep in this character. And because we did get DK Meliodas, Lostvayne actually did get power crept. But he's still a solid character at that, and I don't think he's a bad unit at all, really. But let's go over his kit and what he's able to do. So for his passive here, guys, Rebate increases the ranks of all the hero skills. It increases critical defense by 30% up to 90% whenever the hero takes critical damage during the enemy's turn. And in addition, the hero's attack related stats increase by 10% for 3 turns whenever the hero's unique increases skill ranks, and this can be stacked up to 5 times, maxing out at a 50% attack related stats buff and a 90% critical defense increase. Now moving on to his holy relic here, guys, which as you can see, Lostvayne does have a holy relic, whereas Galleon unfortunately doesn't. But the Fafnir's magic scabbard increases the hero's damage dealt by 10% for every orb in the hero's ultimate move gauge. Now that is a really good holy relic because that coincides really well with the way Lostvayne works and how he's gonna be ranking up whenever he gets crit on, and he has a skill here that's gonna be gauge fill. So we have sever single target, but it's also gonna be gauge fill on the rank 2 and rank 3, so he's able to get a ton of ultimate move gauge, which in turn is gonna increase his damage dealt. And then his second skill here, guys, is gonna be charge AoE with infect. So we're gonna ignore defense and we're gonna restrict recovery related stats. So we're gonna have the rank 1, the rank 2, and also the rank 3 here doing the same thing, and even the rank 1 applying the infect as well. And then moving on to his ultimate here, guys, his ultimate is going to be secret technique AoE with a 20% all stats at 6 out of 6, and the secret technique multiplier actually does scale up to 80% now at 6 out of 6, which is very strong, considering before it used to be 60% at 6 out of 6. So yeah, guys, my main reasoning for Lostvayne being that number 7 spot is mainly because he's, you know, kind of been power corrupt in the game. I mean, the character I don't think is necessarily a bad LR at all, and I don't actually think any of the LRs past Lostvayne are even bad. I think the main thing with them is they've either been power crept or that they're, you know, they're still just kind of being used because they gotta be used pretty much, but they're not that insane pretty much, right? Whereas I do think Lostvayne is not a bad unit. He just got power crept, and that's not a bad thing because you can definitely still use this character, and I definitely see him in like OG Demon, and you can even run him on Sin's team, but he's just not DK Melly, guys. So yeah, man, that's gonna be Lostvayne there. Let's move on to the number 6 character on the tier list. Alright, guys, now moving on to the number 6 character on the list here that we're gonna rank in terms of the game. I'm actually gonna put the brand new Lilia. Now this is subject to change obviously because we don't have this character in the game yet as I'm recording this video, but off of, you know, just what we've seen on her kit here, and I actually do have the translations here courtesy of Kane, we can actually talk about what she's able to do, and I'll explain why I think she's gonna fit in that number 6 slot right there. So hopping into what the character is able to do, LR Advent of Destruction Lilia Desire. For the passive hero power Desire, at the start of an ally's turn, apply Power of Destruction to all enemies for 1 turn, and 7 Catastrophes allies do not take more than 50% of their max HP as damage. Also, at the end of the enemy's turn, for every Power of Destruction removed from enemies, increases the 7 Catastrophes allies attack related stats by 7%, maxing out at the 28%. Now, Power of Desire or Power Destruction here, sorry, is going to be decreasing attack by 20%, and at the end of the turn, additional damage equal to 15% of the remaining HP of the enemy, which is pretty solid. You know, it's the original Red Lilia passive right there, and then we have this other stuff added on top of that. Now, moving on to her skills here, guys. Her first skill is going to inflict pierce damage equal to 440% of attack on a single enemy, and restore the HP of all allies equal to 40% of the damage dealt, which is pretty good, right? You're able to heal allies, and you have that extra pierce effect now on the skill, which before we didn't, we didn't have that on the character. And then moving on to her AoE skill here, her second skill, it's going to inflict damage equal to 250% of attack on all enemies, and deplete 3 ultimate move gauge orbs, and applies infect for 2 turns. Now this skill, from what I saw, also does apply infect on the rank 1, which I think is going to be very, very important for this character being, you know, as good as she is. And then moving on to the ultimate here, guys, removes all buffs from enemies and applies a debuff that increases damage taken by 50% for 1 turn, and inflicts sever damage equal to 525% of attack on all enemies. So yeah, guys, my main reasoning for slotting her in the number 6 slot is because I think she's going to be a solid character in the game. My main issue with specifically with, you know, Lilia here is that she's relying on 7 Catastrophes allies. Now if she didn't have that, you know, kind of that crutch where she didn't need to be run on 7 Catastrophes, I think she'd be a lot better. But the fact that they tell you that you kind of want to be running her alongside those characters, not to say that there, you know, there is like any like, or, you know, there is a few good ones, but I mean, for the most part, they're all, you know, pretty bad. And so it's kind of hard to really argue that you could use this character really in a lot of things. But I definitely do think that, you know, Lilia is going to have some type of viability in, you know, maybe Chaos Battle. But also could be maybe solid on like Demonic Beast. I think, you know, getting that attack related stats is going to be nice. And also that damage cap turn 1 is pretty good too. So, you know, we'll see at the end of the day, guys, in terms of what she's able to do. Also remember that she does have a Holy Relic, and which is actually already in the game. That is a very, very strong Holy Relic, guys. One of the strongest Holy Relics in my opinion, and still to this day, like one of the better ones at that. It increases the hero's basic stats by 10% for every debuff effect on the enemy. Now, take that into account, right? 50% basic stats on an LR character with really good stats, like that's gonna be very, very strong, man. So once this Lillia does get LR and gets the Holy Relic, like she's gonna be absolutely insane, man. So yeah, no, that's why I kind of have her in the number 6 slot there, though, guys. I do think that she'll be solid overall, but I think mainly the reason why I have her there is because a lot of these other LRs here are just a little bit better in the meta game right now, man. So yeah, I think she's gonna be right now at number 6. You know, we'll see when the game you know, has the release for her and see how she actually plays. But yeah, that's where I'm gonna rank LR Lilia right there. Let's move on to the number 5 slot. All right, guys, now moving on to the number 5 slot here, we have LR Margaret. Now, LR Margaret, in my opinion, is a really good character, but the problem is with her is that she was already a really good character. That's the problem. So this character, when she got LR, she already had a lot in her kit that was really good. You know, she had the basic stat increase, which is still in her LR, obviously. She has the basic stat increase. She had the really strong buff, you know, cleanse effect, which was really good. And then, yeah, I mean, her ultimate had block effect as well at high dupe. And yeah, I mean, overall, she was just a solid goddess character. And then after LR, you know, she got a few things added to her. Like, she got this extra, like, you know, additional goddess ally crit chance, crit damage, 4% for every debuff removed, which is solid, but honestly, like, not that insane. And then, like, her Holy Relic here, you know, was always the same before her LR. But damage down, damage reduction for every 4 Archangel on the battlefield. You know, it's kind of solid, but nothing super crazy. And then when we look at her skills here, she did get a critical resistance debuff on her charge skill. So it's going to be charge and decreases critical resistance of the enemy, which is pretty good. You know, it's not like anything crazy, but, you know, having that debuff allows you to crit a little bit easier. And, you know, for characters like Mael, you're able to do a lot more damage. And then when talking about the buff skill here, this is one of the best buffs in the entire game. And I mean, before LR, it was still one of the best buffs in the entire game. So as you guys can kind of tell here, you know, with the way I'm explaining Margaret, you know, she didn't have much things that were, you know, like, how do I explain it, man? This character was already really good, and she didn't get enough to make her that much better, right? She got very minuscule buffs, and because of that, she doesn't really seem, you know, that crazy, but definitely better than the other LRs that we got on the list, because she's still a good character, as I mentioned. She was already good, so when you give a good character in LR, and you give her a little bit extra stuff, then she's a little bit better, right? But yeah, and then her ultimate here, they added a damage taken debuff on the enemy, so increases damage taken by 50%. And then yeah, you block effect, and it also decreases, oh no, I think this was always part of it at 6 out of 6, so it was mainly just the damage taken debuff on the enemy as well, guys. So yeah, man, yeah, I think overall Margaret is a very good character. You know, right now she kind of slots in just like PvE content for Goddess team, and then if you were to run Goddess team in PvP, you would have to run this character. Yeah, and I feel like she is the one, you know, kind of holding the team back, but you gotta run her, man. I mean, the basic stat increase, the really strong buff card here is really strong, and then obviously the you know, the ultimate here and all that. Ludo's really good, man. Margaret Ludo, I think, is solid, and that's why I'm gonna rank her in the number 5 slot right there. Yeah. So I think she's pretty good. So moving on from Margaret, guys, let's hop into the number 4 slot. All right, guys, now hopping into the number 4 slot here, we got LR Escanor. Now, the reason why I'm going to put LR Escanor at number 4 is because we actually have UR Escanor in the game, and it's the same way that I put it in terms of, you know, talking about LRs here, where, you know, DK Melly, obviously power crept Lostvayne. I think UR Escanor power crept this new Escanor. You know, LR Escanor, sorry. The UR Escanor power crept the LR Escanor, right? The reason why is because LR Escanor, for what he's able to do. Let's explain what the character is able to do. So for his passive here, at the end of the turn, applies 1 Eternal Flame for 3 turns on enemies that do not, or that have not used a skill during the enemy's turn. And if all allies, including the secondary slot, are humans, applies 1 additional Eternal Flame on all enemies at the start of the ally's turn for 3 turns. And then the hero's attack related stats increase by 5% up to 30% for each Eternal Flame applied to the enemies. And in addition, when the hero's ultimate move gauge is completely filled, the hero removes all buffs and debuff effects from self and becomes immune to them. So yeah, I mean, obviously his passive right here is solid, but when we compare that passive, guys, to UR Escanor and what he's doing in his passive, it's really hard to compete, man. I mean, you know, UR Escanor has the 50% damage cap. He has a lot of things going on. He gets the hero all stats for applicable allies. You can run this Escanor as well alongside on humans or 7 deadly sins, whereas when you're running LR Escanor, he's pretty much limited only to the human team because of the way his secondary slot effect works, you know, for only humans. So you pretty much are, you know, relegated to running this character only in, you know, a human setup. But that doesn't make this character necessarily that bad. I think this Escanor is, you know, still really strong. And I think, you know, in at least the PvE side of the game, I actually use this Escanor a lot, and I think he's a really solid character on like demonic beasts, you know, especially the early ones when farming. Yeah, and then overall, I mean, Escanor is going to be dealing a ton of damage. You know, if we look at his skills here, he has the blast skill, which is going to be damage dealt for every eternal flame on the target, right? And it's also going to be a gauge field just like LR Lostvayne. And then he also does have a buff strip ignite skill, which can get up to 4 ignites at the rank 3, guys. That's pretty good, right? So having that, and remember, this is double single target from a human character, so that means you can run him alongside Roxy and get those crits and just start, you know, kind of speed running through those demonic beasts. So I think because of that, like, Escanor definitely has that, you know, that leverage right there. And then moving on to his ultimate here, guys, he ignores 100% of the critical resistance and inflicts damage equal to 1,260% of attack, or 1440% of attack. You know, so that's like really insane right there too, because he has a combined attack link with Merlin. So yeah, I think overall, I mean, you know, Holy Knight Escanor, still a very good character in the game. I think you have a lot of viability in PvE. You can use him, and he's still really good. You know, you can in Chaos Battle, he's one of the better characters as well. You know, being able to pretty much solo teams just because he's able to rush his ultimate. You can't really debuff him or anything like that, and he's hard to deal with, man. So yeah, I'd say Escanor, for him, I'm actually gonna have him in the number 4 slot, guys. I think it actually is pretty fair to land him in that slot. So yeah, that's going to be LR Escanor, guys. Let's move on to the number 3 character on the tier list. Alright, guys, now hopping into the number 3 character here, we have LR Glockia. Now, LR Glockia wasn't a character that, you know, off the rip was someone that I was thinking would be you know, a good LR, but after kind of like using him and getting to know what he's able to do, I think this character is very insane. You can use this character in multiple things in the game, and I'll kind of explain it right now. Ratatoskr is one of his best things that he's able to do, guys. The hardest demonic beast in the game. This Glockia is really good on it because he's providing a ton of defense related from his passive, as you guys can see. So increases allies defense related by 10% for each surviving ally. That is really strong. And then you couple that with the fact that he has a sever bleed single target, right, for the rat where you do need bleed. And then as well, that his holy relic for chaos battle situations, you can actually run it in a PvP setting alongside a fairy team and do really well with him here, right? So that is definitely very strong. So yeah, overall, I would think the main spots you're going to use LR Glocks is going to be definitely in the Ratatoskr Demonic Beast and also in like Chaos Battle. But I think, you know, he's also going to be a solid, you know, Heroes Arena unit as well, you know, as like a last ditch Heroes Arena unit, because he's providing all that defense related from his passive. I mean, you can definitely take advantage of that. So yeah, I mean, LR Glocks in terms of what he's able to do, guys, and because he's used on the hardest Demonic Beast in the game, I gotta give him credit there, and we have to slot him in the number 3 slot, considering he's able to do the hardest PvE content in the game and is one of the strongest characters for Chaos Battle because he's kind of lower points compared to other characters. I think he's really good in that sense. Now, for his other skills, that what they do, his AoE here, guys, is also going to disable attack and buff skills. So you are sealing both buff skills and attack skills with this AoE. And then on his single target, as I mentioned, is going to be the bleed single target, where you can apply that and do really well, you know, with that specifically. Glockia does have to be run alongside Valenti in the rack, guys, but because of the way he works alongside Valenti, he's able to pretty much cycle through and, you know, provide that extra defense related for the team that you definitely do need. So yeah, I think Glocks is going to be a really solid character overall, and if you haven't made him LR and you're trying to beat the Ratatoskr Demonic Beast, I think is a really strong character at that, guys. So let's move on, guys, to the number 2 slot on the list here for the LRs, and we'll talk about the final 2 spots here. Alright, guys, so it's pretty obvious at this point, I think, where it's going to be, but we have the number 2 being LR Zeldris and the number 1 being LR Liz. Now let's talk about both these characters here and why I actually will rank them in the slots that I do. I have LR Zeldris in the number 2 slot in the game, guys, because he is a viable PvE unit and a viable PvP unit in terms of teams you're going to be rocking. You know, he's not on the best PvP team in the game anymore. He's still a solid option on demons, but he's not going to be like, you know, I would say like a meta tier character anymore. And I don't think any of the LR characters at this point are really meta characters like that, other than the number 1 character, which we're going to talk about. But yeah, no, LR Zeldris is really good because his Holy Relic was already a very strong relic. You know, decreasing the enemy's gauge or you decreasing gauge increases allies' basic stats by 6% for each ultimate move gauge removed up to 5 times. So whenever you get your gauge removed by using Zeldris' commandment, because remember, he's able to reduce his own gauge if you move skills, or if you use his single target, which did get updated to have gauge reduction, you now have ways to increase your basic stats for the team. And because of that, that's really strong. That's 30% basic stats for any team you use in the game, which I think overall right there alone is going to kind of carry this character to be very, very strong in PvE content and, you know, in some scenarios in PvP. And for his passive here, in terms of what he's able to do, guys, we have the Demon King's Deputy. Increases the hero's critical chance by 100% for 2 turns at the start of the battle, and increases the hero's critical chance by 30% for each orb removed from the enemy's ultimate move gauge with the hero's skill use up to 90%. And the hero's damage dealt increases by 80% when attacking a debuffed enemy. And in addition, the hero's critical damage increases by 120% for 1 turn when the hero moves a skill. The critical damage increases by 30% for each orb removed from the hero's ultimate move gauge up to 90% as well. So you guys can see you're getting a lot of critical chance, critical damage. Alongside that, when you stack that with the 30% basic stats you're able to get, I think that combo together right there, guys, is really, really strong just across all content in Grand Cross. And Zeldris is a character that you can use in literally any PvE content in the game. As I mentioned, you know, he's actually a solid DPS as well on Ratatoskr if you are missing DK melee, because you can have his commandment be a way to cleanse your team, but also Zeldris is going to be able to, you know, provide 30% basic stats while being able to dish out tons of damage with his spike single target and his AoE despair, you know, healing as well. You know, lowering the critical resistance of enemies, and then also healing based on the amount of damage or diminished HP upon successful critical strike. So yeah, very, very strong skills right there. And then even his ultimate as well, guys, just single target spike with HP related lower, like that itself is going to be always hitting a guaranteed damage cap, and the fact that it's able to do that is very strong alongside that. So yeah, that's pretty much my reasoning right there for LR Zeldris. Let's talk about the number 1 character now, guys, with LR Elizabeth, and explain why she's number 1. LR Elizabeth is one of those characters that I don't think is really going to age out in, you know, in pretty much the entire game until we get a new Liz that's doing as much support as this one's doing. So for you guys that don't know why this character is so strong, LR Liz is able to provide up to 30% basic stats for characters in PvE, and this does count in Demonic Beast as well, even though it says in PvE battle. Demonic Beast is included. And whenever you heal allies, which, as you know, in Elizabeth right here, she has healing through her ultimate, and she also has healing through her attack skill where, you know, it heals based on damage dealt, which is going to be very good. And then looking at the rest of her passive here, the hero's ultimate move gauge fills by 1 orb whenever the hero uses a skill. So whenever you use 1 skill, you're gaining 2 gauge instead of 1, which is already another really good effect, because this is a character that you want to all rush to be able to cycle this, you know, attack related stat increase that she did get off her LR. So that is obviously very strong alongside the heal, right? So you get a heal and you get, you know, the attack related stats. And then as well, in all game modes, allies recovery rate increases by 20% whenever the hero heals an ally, limit of 5 times. And that's going to be really good in Demonic Beast content where, you know, when you're getting targeted from a, you know, from a boss, that's going to help because recovery rate's going to help with your start of turn healing and make it a lot easier for you guys to kind of, you know, live throughout the fight in terms of just tanking, right? I think LR Elizabeth's able to provide that. So you guys might be wondering, why am I ranking Elizabeth number 1 if it's just going to be PvE content? Well, you guys got to think about it like this, man. LR Elizabeth with the Holy Relic as well is actually able to be run as a backline supportive character in PvP, and a universal backline at that. Increases the hero's HP related stats by 15%, and as you guys can see, it's active even in the sub slot regardless of the race or characteristic or anything like that. I said catastrophe, but literally regardless of any team you're running, Elizabeth can be a solid backline you're able to run. And so because of that, I actually do think she's a good backline unit in PvP and a really good unit in PvE when actually using her. So when you couple those things alongside the fact that she's able to heal allies while dealing flood damage, she has a buff skill that gives you a team-wide cleanse while providing defense related. And obviously, as I mentioned, the ultimate, you know, giving you the attack related and the heal. Guys, this is the best LR character in the game, and is gonna be the best LR until we get any type of, you know, PvE, PvP Elizabeth that can do everything she does, but also just better in terms of everything else. That's the only time we're gonna really see a change in terms of, you know, the number 1 LR in the game. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below of my updated LR tier list. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and make sure to like and subscribe, and also let me know where you guys would rank the brand new LR Lilia in terms of the tier list, and if you would move around any of my other, character picks here that I had on the list. With that out of the way, guys, that's going to be it, and I'm going to see you guys on the next video, man. Peace out, and have a great rest of your day, guys. See you later, man.